Hey, we're back. Welcome back. Oh my gosh, Become One Living podcast.
Tools.
A lifelong journey of Jody Dommerstad Boysitz and me.
My husband, the coolest man in the world.
Oh, thank you, baby. So we're talking today about the Niyamas, which gets good for me.
The Niyamas.
Yeah, particularly, I'm jumping ahead, but self-study is really great. I think it's, getting introspective and reflecting and going inside is a whole world. But let's start at the beginning.
Gandhi. As human beings, our greatness lies not so much in being able to remake the world as in being able to remake ourselves. And the Niyamas are about your inner world and your immediate surroundings.
Boy, and it's just the beginning of your heroine's journey.
What do you mean?
Well, we all have our own unique journey, chock full of experiences. And ultimately, if you're on that journey and you're searching and you're investigating yourself and you're studying yourself and you're examining your experiences, you keep going and going and growing and maturing, and you go all the way like the continuum theory, and you go all the way around, and you guess what you get back to? Yourself. But this time you get back to your deeper self.
Niyama is one of the 8 limbs of yoga. And our last episode, we spoke on yamas, which are about your behavior in the outer world, how you act, how you behave with the outer world. Now, the niyama goes from the outer world to the inner world, and it asks, how do you care for yourself? And some of the niyamas, there's 5, are cleanliness, contentment, discipline, self-study, and Ishvara pranidhana, which means surrendering to what is happening now.
Surrendering in the greatest, strongest sense, most meaningful sense possible. Not surrendering as in giving up.
For years, I struggled with that word surrender. Somebody said to me once, I don't surrender to the moment. That means it wins.
And I think that if you look up the definition, basically what surrender means, or actually not basically, essentially what surrender means is to simply yield to what is. There's no mention of someone being lesser than or greater than. It's yielding to what is.
Wow, that's powerful in looking at me, myself, and my immediate surroundings. That's what the niyamas look at and discuss. So you're saying yield to what is happening in this moment, which in turn to me can be the kindest thing that you can do for yourself. Instead of arguing with reality.
Mm-hmm. But we jumped ahead.
We actually jumped way ahead.
So cleanliness, it's thinking clean, maybe eating clean, maybe being clean, maybe washing your armpits with soap. There's a variety of cleanliness items to capture.
I am looking at Dan snarkily. I just made that word up. He's saying use soap when you shower under your armpits because of me. Tell him. Okay.
Yeah, okay. Right. Well, I mean, see, I asked my uncle Ed, who's a biologist. He's a retired biologist, and I asked him. He worked for Lever 2000 and Johnson & Johnson, a lot of skin products, and I said, "What does soap do?" And he said, essentially, it breaks up the cake that comes onto your skin. So You want to use soap to break up the cake.
I just use my nails like a dry brush to scrape off the cake.
And that's why I can smell you from here.
Hey! Well, we have this joke that we giggle at, but Dan has two older brothers, and his one brother said something that we still laugh about. Do you remember?
Yeah, I smelled my armpit, and Jody smelled her armpit, and I go, we smell just alike. And he goes, of course you guys smell like alike. You eat the same food.
So cleanliness has to do with taking care of your body. And I remember one of my yoga teachers saying that for years he would go to a thrift shop and not spend a lot of money on clothes. But the clothes that he would buy were really worn out, would have holes in them and strings and pulls. And what he came to realize about cleanliness is also about respecting your body. It doesn't matter how much something costs, but the question is, why are you wearing ripped clothes and torn clothes if you don't have to? This idea of caring for oneself, no matter the cost, the fabric, really feeling that I care about what I wear and being clean and feeling good in what I'm wearing. That also, to me, goes into immediate surroundings. Do I feel good in the clothes I have on?
Yeah. And it's definitely body, it's definitely clothing, but it's also extends out into all those other things that in our modern world are, caring for what you allow in. I guess there's a crossover there, but being clean about your approach to life, not just your body.
Yes.
And noticing, so I know how I feel when I have one of those weekends where I eat a lot of cheese and potato chips. I feel the result. I feel that.
Yeah.
That to me is part of that cleanliness piece where, okay, if I ate cleaner, well, how can I compare and contrast how I feel after I eat potato chips versus how I eat after I have a red bell pepper for breakfast?
Mm. Also, what about looking at cleanliness or purifying with what you're watching? And people like violent shows or cop shows. My mother loves cop shows. And when I get into these episodic shows on my computer, because I haven't had a TV in 20 years. And I've been with Dan 13 years. We don't have a TV. We will sometimes watch movies on our computer, and he'll catch me in these episodic movies, and they're usually cop movies and psychological thrillers. That's not really cleanliness for the mind because it keeps me in suspense, which keeps me limbic, fight or flight. And I've become very aware of what are the things that I'm putting in my mouth, in my ears, and in my eyes. Does that add to cleanliness? And cleanliness to me also means seeing clearly, being clear, not just not being dirty.
Mm-hmm. And the relationship to the body is when you work out your body and get some of the kinks out and you become erect and you get your head straight on your shoulders, you have clearer thoughts.
When you move your body, you get the kinks out, you have the capacity to see and think clearly.
You're maximizing that potential to see, be, and feel clearly.
Wow. The Niyamas also have a word called tapas, Tapas. And some translate it as heat and fire, and they make their practice quicker or harder, thinking the more heat they have, the more they're going to burn off purities. And I'm here to tell you,
Burn off impurities.
yes. What did I say?
Burn off purities.
Okay. So we're going to burn off impurities.
Yeah,
All
baby.
right. And I'm here to tell you that ain't happening. You cannot move your body quick enough to get rid of your stuff. You can't sweat enough to get rid of your stuff. And I mean stuff as in, let's say, dis-ease mentally, physically, and emotionally. Tapas is about a discipline. It also means discipline. And this discipline that you engage in is different than what you normally do. So it creates this agitation or this rub or friction, which creates a heat for transmutation and alchemy to occur.
Love it.
And that could be done in anything. Coffee in the morning. I love coffee in the morning. I'm cool with it. Let's say, though, you want to give it up. And if you wake up, you will have to choose tea or something different to fill it or not have anything. That's the agitation. That's the very thing that is going to stimulate a rub because it's different than what you always do. If you don't continue to do it, you will not transform. To change any habit neurologically, this is neuroscience, it has to be small, repeatable, and done consistently over time. If you're not willing to do that, you will not change a certain aspect of yourself.
And what you just said sounds like a sutra.
It is. It is. We will dive into the Yoga Sutras more, but there is a sutra that says, and the Yoga Sutras were written thousands of years ago. They're guidelines for participating in yoga and how to do yoga. And the 8 limbs that we're talking about the second limb right now. Those 8 limbs are in that book. And there is one sutra that says you must do something with love for a long period of time without breaks to see a change.
With enthusiasm.
I like with love. But yes, with enthusiasm. I threw in the love word.
Yeah, we blew over another one, contentment.
Contentment.
Santosha. Yeah, I love the weave. I love the fibers that are coming together as we move through this. There's crossover for me with like tapas, discipline, and concentration, dharana. The weave is starting to happen where things cross over into one another. And contentment, all of these things are slippery slopes. Your approach matters, your understanding matters, where you are in your life matters. There's so many variables. So for those of you who are listening and we're beginning to share, we want you to know that we're not talking absolutely. We're sharing to educate and share our experience, and we'd love you to participate in this. So, and I get sensitive to that because I don't want to turn anybody off. I really want to create a dialogue with people, because when you talk about, say, for instance, contentment, I mean, we have to start and explore, investigate what that means for each individual. And they could be, for one person, could be a world apart from another person. So relationship to each and everything in your life plays a role in getting started in transforming and diving deeper into a yoga practice or yoga practices. And why are we talking about that? Why do we care? Because yoga has powerfully impacted us in beneficial ways.
And it has a framework. The 8 limbs are logical, clear, and concise framework that we can go back to when we need support in checking where are we off. If something's not working in my life, I go through the list. Is it my behavior outward? Is it towards myself? Is it my body? Am I eating something? Am I not exercising? Is it my breath? Is it my mind? Is it my thoughts? Am I distracted by someone or something? Where am I in this thing called life? Where did I lose myself? That's what I appreciate about yoga. And there's no judgment. I don't know where I am in this moment. I'll share that with Dan, that we'll be walking, we'll go for a walk, and he'll say, "What's going on?" I have no idea what's going on. That's where we want to be, because when we don't know, this is what I feel like contentment is. I'm content with not knowing what's going on in the moment, which then allows for me possibilities of what really could be going on. Are you always wishing something is different than what is here now?
Right.
That's not contentment.
Right. And if you're content, if you can achieve contentment, you will be moving in the direction of having ease in your life. And when you're easeful, you're less anxious and stressed. And when you're less anxious and stressed, you can be more productive with the things that you want to be more productive with.
As contentment comes up, I'm remembering my chronic illness, something that was hard to forget. And every day I woke up with pain. And my pain was physical and mental. I was always angry, not at the world. Well, that's not true. Sometimes I was frustrated, feeling, what if I can't function today? What if I get sick today? What if this hurts today? I was never okay with not being okay. And that's something that I had to shift in order to heal. Contentment, I learned for myself. And Dan said this just a couple seconds ago. You have to know what these words mean to you. You have to know what contentment means to you in order to use the word. And for me, contentment is being okay with what's happening and not trying to change it. So as sickness rose for me and I met it, I'm not dealing with this. I'm not going to do this. I'm not going to do that. But when I paused and said, no, this is what's happening. This is what's here right now. To me, that allowed so many doors to open. That's contentment. It doesn't mean I necessarily like what's happening, but it means I can get with it.
You're okay with it.
Yeah, it's here.
Yeah. Yep. It's some of these things are subtle and, tricky, and you may have to spend some time with them, but at the same time, they're powerful. Tapas, discipline for me, is a crossover in my mind and woven in my mind to dharana, the limb of concentration. I have had moments in my life where an intense, regular yoga practice, having that ability to develop my ability to concentrate, has offered me great results in my personal life. There was a time when I was doing a lot of yoga and I couldn't figure out what I was supposed to do. And by showing up and moving my body and concentrating, I came to the answer that I needed for that moment in time. And the same for physical injury. When I committed to figuring out what's going on with my arm, what's going on with my left shoulder, and trying to get it remedied so I can make it usable again, I got the result. Discipline and concentration go together for me. So in the Niyamas, discipline is truly important if you want to reap the greatest benefit of all these things that have come together in terms of the sutras and the 8 limbs.
With discipline, then comes self-study. Dan shared the discipline that he did helped his arm, helped him make a decision or get clarity around the decision that he needed to make for himself. You can only do that if you're adding in that piece of self-study. And you're self-studying yourself against what you're choosing to do to see if it works. What does that mean? It means if you're doing yoga and you're still a jerk, you want to study that a little. You want to start to inquire, why am I still behaving this way? What's happening? Is it working? Self-study. Who am I? Who do I want to be? How do I get there? There's this opportunity to practice yoga, the system of yoga. The yamas, what's my behavior? The niyamas, how am I treating myself and my immediate surroundings, the inner world? Now, once you're questioning this inner world, then it's studying yourself and asking yourself, who am I? Who do I want to be? And then surrendering to where you are in this moment in your life and be right where you are, not want to be somewhere else of this. Yes, we use these tools not always to change and get more and be different, but to embrace ourselves and where we are and who we are in this moment.
My favorite college class in my undergraduate degree, the class was simply called listening. And it's my most memorable favorite class of my entire undergraduate degree. Um, Speaking of self-study, you get reflections from your world around you. And when I was younger, I came to be known a little bit as a wise ass. My truth about it was simply that I would just state the obvious. And in my family, stating the obvious was like raucous and rowdy because nobody wanted to see the obvious, right? But as I'd gone through my life, I realized the things that I learned in college in my course called listening were so appealing and awesome to me that what I did was I got so great at listening in conversation that I'll listen so deeply to what somebody is sharing, so deeply that if a thought comes in, by the time they finish their thought, I forget what it is that I wanted to share. So it's these things help, these exercises and these niyamas, they help you get tuned into the present moment. If you really put it under a microscope and you take it a little bit seriously, you can develop skills that are subtle, but and they're at your disposal, but they're not popular. So I would miss out on opportunities on being a wise ass because I would delve into listening so well. And it's just cool things like this, having the discipline to let go, surrender, yield, be content, and not force anything, allow flow.
Niyamas are about an inner discipline. And to live according to the system of yoga, it's our responsibility as an individual to make time and effort to tend to our body, breath, heart, and mind. The niyamas are a more subtle way of looking at yourself, where the yamas are grosser, meaning external. So we go from the very external with the yamas to more internal with the niyamas. And the last niyama is
Ishvara Pranidhana. And I mean, it's a boatload.
surrendering to God.
Yeah. Well, you just said it. That when you say that, that's a boatload, because it's when you do these tools, you can get glimpses, glimmers, little lights shining through the cracks of the divinity of life, the divinity of things, the divinity that lies within you. So again, like to the audience, we want a dialogue, so we're not looking to turn off anyone that honors one particular God. We're looking to open up a conversation and be open to even that rock at the top of the mountain that you climb, finding the divinity in that, finding the preciousness in life in that.
Well, it's not about turning anyone off because we have no control over that. Isn't that yoga? Yoga is about truth. And the truth is that's what the yoga scriptures say is surrender to God. And the question that I ask everyone to ponder is, what does that mean to you? Goes back to what you shared is, what does that even mean? Because to me, what it means is this innate intelligence that lives everywhere. And this intelligence that makes the sun rise and set and shows us the moon, the reflection, right? The seasons. There's so many ways to look at this word.
Right.
And here I would also like to offer this. Can you surrender to the moment? That's what I hold in my heart is, am I fighting every single thing that is given to me that's happening in my day? Or can I, after all the practices I do, can I surrender and say, I trust that what is happening is meant to happen because I'm doing everything I can in the moment? And can I be okay with not knowing what the outcome will be, but knowing that I'm going to show up to the best of my ability in the moment? That's the gift of the 8 limbs. If I investigate these limbs, and again, we're only on number 2 if you're just joining us, Niyama, about inner discipline, your cleanliness, your contentment, your
self-study.
And then the ability to say, I'm going to do all this, and yet I still have no control over the outcome. I only have control over my action. That, my friends, was life-changing when I realized that there's nothing outside myself I have control over. I can do these practices to support me and to help me see clearly and to make more life-enhancing decisions. But in the end, whatever happens, I have no control over. It's only your actions. So how do you choose to behave? And what do you want to change? Niyama, what do you want to change in your life or use in your life to help create a transformation?
Mm-hmm. Good stuff. What are we talking about next episode?
Will be the 3rd limb, which is asana. I know. There's so much great stuff to talk about when it comes to the body and asana.
Yeah. It's crazy. Like any one of these words that you mentioned, there's so much.
Yes. We will be talking about these and hopefully having discussions with your questions that you can email us at becomeoneliving@gmail.com, and you can find us on Instagram at becomeoneliving. Questions are great. Dan and I in human design are both responders.
Yeah. So
if you don't know what that is, we'll talk about that one time too.
What it means, though, in a nutshell, is bring on the questions.
And we will respond. Oh, thank you so much for listening and being with us today.
Yeah.
Thanks, Dan, for engaging in this conversation with me.
Yeah, I look forward to it.
See you next time.